Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nation's organization's main fan page where I do this daily live stream. Based on the card, the divination card or the oracle card I draw in the morning, and the information that's meant for our highest good to have today. Yeah, for our soul growth. And the card always sparks a spiritual conversation between me and those that are in the live chat. And yeah, it's a good time to be together in community, I think, to have those kinds of conversations. So welcome. Today is Friday, March 22nd. March 22nd, yeah. And we have another sunny day here in Tomah, Wisconsin. Blue skies, about 43 degrees. It's definitely spring. And those big mounds of snow, they're melting. It might take a little bit, but they're melting. Yeah. So, yeah, let's see who's. Oh, hey, Polly Joe is here. Hello, Polly Joe. Auntie PJ. Georgie, Auntie PJ is here. I don't know. He's laying underneath the table. He's a good boy, he is, your nephew. And Stephanie's here too. Hello, Stephanie. Good to have you in the chat and helping us out with all those postings that you do for us. Thank you. Today, Friday, is, thank you, Polly Joe. I appreciate that. Yeah, why don't I do that too? Before we get too far down the road, I am going to like and share the live stream as well, and I've just got to find it. I know we're here. There we are. I'm gonna like it. I'm sharing it over to my news feed. I'm gonna turn down the sound. So that my friends know that I am live streaming. And asking them to please join. There we go. And I know Stephanie's going to be hitting the other group, so I'm going to leave you to that, okay, Stephanie? So we don't double post to them. Yeah. There we go. It's so easy. I do the sharing and posting so often that I have all these quick keys now. And yeah, it's nice. It's good. I got to share something funny with you guys. And Paul knows I'm sharing this, so I'm not telling something out of turn. He had to get a new cell phone. And you know what that's like. You think that it's because he thinks it's because it's an Android and it's just the next step up. It's going to be the same, right, as his old phone. No, only a portion of his contacts made it over from the old phone to the new phone. So he's been dealing with that, and yeah, and just getting all of his old apps back into the new phone, and all of that. So he was working on it, and he's making some headway. He's only had the phone for a few days, and then his work ordered him a phone as well, which he knew was going to happen, but he didn't know when it was going to arrive. And it arrived the same. I think it was the next day when his personal new phone arrived here at home. His new phone at work is an iPhone. It's an iPhone 7. So he has an Android phone for his personal use, and he has an iPhone for his business use, which is, having separate phones is a really good idea, right, for that, especially when you have an employer. Oh my gosh, but it's two different, and you guys know this. Those who have Android know that your phones are completely different than those of us who have iPhones, right? So he's got two different languages that he has to work with. So he came to me last night after I got done with the Polly Joe's show last night. I get in the house, and he's standing in the kitchen, and he's looking really perplexed. And I'm going, "What's wrong?" He says, "I need help." I said, "With what?" And he said, "With my iPhone." And so I had to sit down with him and kind of give him a really quick kind of tutorial about how to navigate through his phone and where to find things. But I don't know. It just struck me funny because he's the one who moved me from, or helped me move, I should say, from Android and PC over to Mac and iPhone and iPad. So I am completely in the Mac world, have been for a couple of years now. But, for a while there, I too was kind of bridging both worlds a bit. Oh my gosh, I know I shouldn't laugh at him, but it was funny. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hey, Rochelle Ashley's in the house. Bonjour. Bonjour, Rochelle. And she says, good to be here, Neshi. 51 and cloudy, rain soon, but the mountains of Colorado Springs. Oh my goodness. I think we're like at 43 degrees and we still have snow on the ground. Big piles of snow. But yeah, spring is definitely here. And I shared this the other day. What day was that? Maybe it was Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday. I was on a conference call with Sharon Rosenblum. She happens to be one of my sisters, but she also is the copy editor for us at Star Nations, and she's an associate editor, right? So we're having a discussion about publishing one of the new books, and I look out the four-season porch from my dining room, and I see all of these robins, and there were so many robins in the backyard and in the woods behind the house that I couldn't count them. There were just so many. And then amongst them was the mated pair of pileated woodpecker. And they were just on the other side of the fenced-in backyard, which is maybe 30 feet from the house, maybe, the fence line. And yeah, they're huge, those pileated woodpeckers. But it was like all of a sudden the door to spring opened wide, and all these songbirds were singing, and we had sandhill cranes flying overhead that morning calling. And so spring was definitely ushered in through those who fly on Wednesday. Yeah. And Rochelle, I was just thinking about all of those when you lived way up north, all of the birds that you used to take pictures of those blue herons and such. And so anyway, spring is definitely here. This morning at my house, it was relatively calm for a weekday. This is usually my Sundays are like this, but it was relatively calm, quiet. It was just the three of us home, Mom, me, and George. Usually, my house sometimes kind of gets like Grand Central Station sometimes, and busy. And so it was really calm this morning. So I was able to sit down and actually start my article for the April issue, and working on a couple other things. Working on a special time frame for communications from home next week with a special guest to be interviewed. And so anyway, it was a quiet, and I had a lot of work done this morning. And when I did the card draw, this is kind of funny. When I did the card draw, I was sitting on the couch, and I had my celery juice. Yes, I'm drinking celery juice on my at the side table, and George is laying on the couch next to me. And I was saying out loud to my spiritual team, calling them all in, and asking them to show me what is the most important information for us to know about today for our soul growth, right? For our highest good and highest good of all, and that we can share with others. What does George do? George kind of scooches closer to me and puts his nose on the deck of cards. So I was asking him, are you helping me this morning? And he had his nose on him, okay, and he took him off, and I started shuffling. And what flew out of the deck? Wolf. So I was telling George, I said, I guess we get to talk about share about your ancestors. Wolf. Yeah, good one, huh? I told you, it's not hilarious funny, but synchronicity funny. That's kind of hard to say. All right, let's see. Hey, Marie's here too. Hello, Marie. Good to have you, and thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And Julie Hedges is here. Yay, Julie. Hello, trying to connect. Well, you got us. You're here, Julie. And thank you for liking and sharing. It's good. Thank you. Um, and George is asleep. He doesn't sleep next to the light anymore. Did you guys know that the other day? I think it was Monday. He's laying between the table where I have the computer and all my sound equipment on. And there's, I don't know, maybe a foot or two between the table and my light that I use for the live streams, right? And it's actually a photographer's lamp. All right. So I don't know, about 3/4 of the way through the show, George decides he's going to stretch. And he stretches, and his back feet knock over the lamp. And I could see it doing one of these things, teetering. And I was trying to grab it from its electrical cord to see if I could hold it, at least not crash to the ground. That didn't work. It did. It crashed to the floor. But it didn't break really anything. I was afraid there was going to be like broken glass from the light bulb all over the floor. And then there's George, right? That didn't happen. It bent the wires of the umbrella a little bit, but that was it. That was it. So I was thanking my spiritual team for taking care of that and having a somewhat of a gentle crash landing of the light. But yeah, so he doesn't lay in that spot anymore. He's more closer to me on the other side. So yeah. Julie. Julie is saying woof or wolf. Yes. Yes to both. Yes to both. All right. And hey, Maggie. Maggie's here too. Hello, Maggie. Good to have you in the house. And Stephanie says, yeah, I'm not the only one drinking celery juice. Yeah. I'm actually doing a liver cleanse. I'm following Patricia Heredia. She's one of our contributing writers for the magazine. And her column is the Therapy Center. That's the name of her business. And she's been doing a series of, the series is called What's Up with Weight Gain Anyway, or something like that. And so since January, she's been preparing us for this liver cleanse. And so in the April issue, she actually tells us the pre-liver cleanse. So it's a very gentle way to be able to prepare your liver for the next step, which is the deep cleanse, right? And so in this pre-cleanse, so every morning is lemon juice, which I do periodically anyway, but I always drink a big glass of water right away in the morning. And so it's just adding the lemon juice to 2 cups of good water, right? And then 30 minutes, when you're finished with that, 30 minutes later, to have either 2 cups of celery juice or 2 cups of cucumber juice. So I've been kind of alternating between the two. And I started this the first week in March, and it took a good probably 7 to 10 days for me to start feeling some of the actual cleansing kind of symptoms, the headache, the fatigue, that sort of thing. And but I think it's doing really well. I mean, it's not hard to do at all. It's basically just adding the celery juice or the cucumber juice to it. So yeah, if you're interested, just take a look at the April issue. Or you want to go back to January, because she gives you a whole list of foods that's really good for you to eat, and preparing your body for this, right? Yeah. So let's get back to wolf or woof. All right, here we go. Now, this is what we've been doing with the cards, right? We're still using the Druid Animal Oracle deck by Philip and Stephanie Cargome, illustrated by Bill Worthington. And what we've been doing with these cards is that I'm holding it up so that you can really take in the information. And when you're taking in the information, I mean you're taking it in completely, holistically. All of your bodies are bringing in the information. And so what I've been asking people is that when you look at the card, where are you drawn first? What does your eye catch first? And then do a check-in with yourself. Where do you feel it in your body? How do you feel? What's the emotion that you feel when you look at the card? And whatever it is that draws you in, okay? Because once we start with the information of the card, that way you can discern for yourself what aspect of the information is for you, right? Because maybe not all of the information will resonate with you, but parts of it will, and then that way you're already primed for it, right? Yeah. Okay. So the other thing is that I've been asking for, I don't know, months now, is how many people who are in the live chat are grounded today? How many people did their grounding this morning? And if you haven't, you can just take a moment and ground. And that way, when you're bringing in information like this through a card or anything really, is that you're more prepared to take it in, take in as much information as you possibly can, optimally, right? Yeah. Now, of course, I have an affinity for Wolf. Wolf's been walking with me for a really long time. Wolf has been walking with me since I was 17. I've explained about the difference between a power animal and a totem, right? The power animals come in to help us with a life lesson, with the project that we're working on. And when we complete that life lesson, they move on. And then we receive a new power animal for our next experience, right? Totems stay with us for our entire life. And so I have a birth totem, which is the owl. But when I was 17 is when I went through what's called the little death. And it gets paired up with shamanism. We call them holy people or medicine people. And so in that second birth, if you will, I received two wolves who walk with me. And so I have an affinity for wolf. And that's probably one of the reasons why we've always had a dog. We might have a few years in between dogs, but we've always had a dog in our house. All right, so with this card, we're going to take a look at the top of the card, okay? And what we see is very tall trees. And in the background, we actually have trees with leaves on them. Now, this particular deck of cards and the illustrator, many of the cards, when you see a tree, they are bare. They don't have any leaves on them. So it's either fall, winter, or early spring, right? But in this card, we've got leaves on the trees, blue sky, yeah. And then we get to the wolf. And the other thing that we noticed about this deck and the illustrator is many times we only see one eye. So the animal is only looking at us with one eye. There are a few cards where we actually see both eyes, and this happens to be one of them. And the wolf is looking directly at us. And he's walking along a stream. Noticing that he has 3 of his 4 feet on the ground. So he's grounded to Grandmother Earth, but he also is partially in spirit. Going to get a close up on the stones there. There's an etching in the stone, which is a wolf. Waterfall in the background. Yeah. And of course, we've got grass. He's walking on grass. But he's coming toward us. He's not walking away from us. He's coming toward us, right? Yeah. So he certainly has a message for us, a direct message, straight on, right? Yeah. All right. So, hey, Julie Shumway Hill is here. Hello, Julie. Good to have you here. And so the question was, what drew you in? What did your eye catch first? And Maria is saying the face. Okay, good. And Julie says the face as well. And thank you, Julie, for letting me know you're grounded. Thank you so much. And just as a reminder, those who haven't done their grounding yet, just take a moment to do it. And here's Polly Jo. She says the water. Okay, so what part of the water, Polly Jo? The stream or the in the background the waterfall? Okay. All right. Yeah, Julie is saying, yay, grounded every morning, every night. Yeah, you betcha. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Oh my goodness, I sounded Canadian there, or at least maybe Alaskan. You betcha. I hardly ever say that. Maggie says, wolf, not to be mistaken for a coyote. That's right. That's right. And Maggie, can you share what's for those people who like to identify, especially from a distance, for me, the wolf is majorly bigger, majorly bigger. A coyote is kind of like a knee-high kind of dog size, right? And they have a much, I think, pointy nose, coyote, and they're more. I think they're more lanky, kind of lean, kind of lanky. Their paw prints are much smaller than a wolf. Yeah, a wolf is huge, huge. A grown wolf will stand when they're standing on all fours. They could be like hip high to you, depending on how tall you are. But they're tall. They're very tall. When they stand up on their back legs, they could easily be 6 feet tall, easily. When they're stretched out, right? And their chest is much bigger. Their noses, their snout is rather pointy, but it's not as sharp as a coyote's, right? Yeah, and their paw prints are majorly huge. They get huge feet. Sometimes it's the whole width of a hand, and if you're a guy, the male wolves their paw prints are even bigger than a female's paw print. So they're very large, very, very large. Yeah. And Maggie says the wolf is a guider. That is why. Yep, that's right. You know your wolves, Maggie. And Julie says, I have a strong affinity to all canine four-legged. Yes. Yeah. And what is that, right? Right, Julie? What is that? That connection? How does it feel? What's the emotion that's attached to it? Right. And Maggie says that she was drawn in by the eyes of the wolf. Yeah. Okay, and Polly Jo, she was drawn to the water, both the stream and the waterfall. Julie says, notice that he's looking away from straight on. Oh, I see what you mean. Yep. It's almost like he's glancing to his left, but he's walking right at us, right? Walking right at us. Maggie says, yep. You know wolf medicine. You also know dragon medicine pretty good too. Rochelle says, the water snaking through the rocks and the trees. Yeah. And what could that mean, right? Water is about emotion, right? And with a stream, it's flowing, it's moving emotion. Whereas a lake, or as most of these are about Scottish and Irish and like the Celts, right? And instead of a loch, which is lake in Gaelic, Lakes are about deep emotion because they're deep, still water, fed by a spring most of the time. But lakes are about deep emotion. Sometimes those things that are hidden from us, right? Those hidden emotions, those ones that we repress sometimes. Yeah. But with a stream, it's flowing. It's moving. It's moving. And Rochelle said the water snake in the rocks. Oh, got that one. Yep. All right. And oh, good one, Maggie. About 34 to 36 inches at the shoulder. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you about my encounter with a wolf in just a second. Stephanie says the documentary goes over the coy wolf and talks about the difference between the wolves and coyotes in the continental U.S. Very good. Oh, good. Thank you, Stephanie. We'll be watching that later. Well, hello, Denise. Good to have you here. Good to see your name in the chat. Love. The emotion is love. Me too. Me too. And a good dose of respect too. Yeah, good dose of respect. Because I think the canine in general, especially the ancestor, right, the wolf, can teach us a whole heck of a lot about community and about taking care of each other. Wolves, they live in a structured community and they have their own communication. They can communicate with each other with different packs all across the United States. Yeah. From calling from one pack to another. It's like a relay system. And within their own community, they take care of the old and they take care of the young. The alpha and male and female, they mate for life. The alpha females are the hunters. And when they hunt, when the whole pack hunts, they hunt in a very strategic way because they're communicating. They're communicating. When they're moving from one place to another, the alphas are not in the lead. Alphas are not in the lead. The alphas are in the back. They're bringing up the rear because they're making sure that all of their family members are keeping up. And they're helping those ones that are having problems keeping up, right? And they're very protective of their young. Yeah, it's a lot about community. The lone wolf thing is a myth. It's a fallacy. It's an urban. Do we want to call it an urban legend? It's a countryside legend. Yeah, when you see a lone wolf, it's usually a male, a young male, and they're looking for their mate to start their own pack. Because packs can only be so big to sustain themselves, right? It's called a carrying capacity. They can only be so big, and then what they do is they naturally start breaking off into smaller packs, and they grow their own clan, literally. And so that's a little bit I know about wolf. Paul is looking into inviting one of his friends here to the academy, probably in October. He is our state's leading expert on the wolf. And he retired from the Department of Natural Resources a few years ago, and he's on a speaking tour now, does the rounds. And so we thought that we would have him come in and talk about wolf in its natural environment, and then hopefully would be also find a good speaker to come in to be able to talk about the spiritual aspect. And I know that Paul's friend understands the spiritual aspect, but he's more of the biologist, right? Yeah, so we're looking at that. And Stephanie is saying the flower of the wolf's back paw. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're going to find out what that is. I don't remember the name of it, but it has something to do with wolf. I can guarantee you that. All right. And Maggie's saying the waterfall is symbolic for uncontrollable energy the wolf will guide you to, the gentleness of the stream. Oh, that's a good way of looking at it, interpreting it, feeling it. Because, definitely the waterfall, when we're talking about emotions and how a waterfall is not gentle, is it? There is some turbulence to it, even though it might be a shorter waterfall. The big ones like Niagara Falls, that's a lot of emotion, a lot of energy coming down. But the shorter ones, that are a little bit more gentler ones, they still have some turbulence down at the bottom, right? Because you have the pooling of the water and the energy that it disturbs as it's coming down, right? Yeah. How many people in the chat has ever stood underneath a waterfall? You'll know what I mean, right? When you're standing under there, and it's got a certain kind of charge or energy to it. Different than if you're just sitting in a pool of water, right? It's a much different energy to it. So thanks for sharing that, Maggie. I like that. It's a good one. Rochelle says, all prayers to the Wabu Manitou, water spirits, should be made in moving water to have positive outcome. Yeah. The giving of tobacco, what I was taught by my Misho, actually, and had, of course, told my mom about it, is that when we're having a difficulty, a hard time with an emotion, like you had an emotional upset, right? An emotional trauma, even, and you just can't seem to shake it. You can't seem to get past it, and it's you're constantly thinking about it, and you can feel it, right? Is that to do tobacco giving, a ceremony, and placing the tobacco into the water and asking the creator to help you to understand what this whatever it is about, and to please take the emotional pain so that you can actually see the situation clearer, right? Yeah. And so putting it into moving water, taking it away. We also put tobacco into the water when we're getting prepared for a naming ceremony, and saying the name of the person the child that's being named, and putting it into moving water. Why? Is because the moving water, it joins with other moving water that joins with other moving water, and eventually it ends up all around the world into the oceans, and the Gulf Stream takes it, and it gets distributed throughout the entire world. And so that's one way to be able to announce the name in an emotional way, in a good way, of this new person getting their native name, their spirit name. So they're recognized throughout the entire world by that name. Kind of cool, huh? Polly Jo says, I was born near Niagara Falls. So and you carry some of that energy with you, about it's a big energy, right? It's a big energy. Huge. I've never actually been there. I've only seen videos of it. So, and Maggie says she has. She has stood under a waterfall, and it is amazing. It's energizing, right? It's energizing. Differently than if you're just kind of sitting in a pool of water in a calmer area. You feel, or lazy on a tube, right? You're feeling more relaxed. Whereas when you're standing under a waterfall, it's just really energizing. And what I like to do is to actually call on the spirit of water to wash my spirit clean, right? To wash my spirit clean. You can even do that in the shower, actually, to wash your spirit clean. And so anything that is not for your highest good is washed away. And you can always replace it with love, right? To be surrounded by love. Yeah. All right, let's get back to the wolf. The wolf. All right, so let's find out what Philip has to say about wolf from the Druid perspective, right? The words associated with wolf from the Druid perspective is intuition, learning, and the shadow. intuition, learning, and the shadow. He says the card shows a wolf stalking in the forest near the source of the river Findhorn in Scotland. How many of you guys recognize that name, Findhorn, in Scotland, which is where we're going to be going in 2020? The last wolf in Britain was killed here in 1743. It is a time of Foal, the wolf month, the last fortnight of winter and the first of spring, generally corresponding to February. In the foreground, we see snowdrops, the flower of the Druid festival of Imbolc at the beginning of February. All right, so Stephanie, that flower that you liked near his foot is a snowdrop. So now we have to find out the mystical qualities of snowdrop, right? Well, it's being white. White is a driven snow, is that what they say? And the Gaelic word for wolf is foal, spelled F-A-O-L, foal. And it brings a strong sense of faithfulness, inner strength, and intuition. But the wolf brings learning too. Sometimes you need to cross barriers, to take risks, to go beyond a limit compass of normal behavior in order to learn and grow, although crossing these barriers may seem unattractive or even painful. And so that's kind of like when we stretch ourselves, right? When we stretch out of our comfort zone. When we stay in our comfort zone, you're still learning, but not at a deep level. And so when we stretch out of our comfort zone, when we take that little bit of a risk to step out of our comfort zone, that's when we have the possibilities expand in our experiences. It says, you need not fear the inner power and strength you feel when you spend time alone. Come to know your deepest self, and even in the darkest places, you'll find courage and spiritual companionship. And I have to tell you, when you walk with wolf medicine, you can come to an understanding of what a loyal friend is and what the opposite of that is, because they're showing you what it's like to have somebody with you that will always be watching your back, that they will have you, that they're the companionship that you walk with, right? And they're also a protection too. Yeah. It says that the wolf is a powerful totem animal embodying many of the qualities of the hound, but including a wildness not found in the domesticated dog. And so when I was talking to George this morning and I showed him the card and I said, we're going to be talking about your ancestor today. Your ancestor is going to be showing us some things. And perhaps it is about that wild side, because we all have one, right? A lot of times we try to ignore that, or we try to act like it's not there, that we always want to be very civilized and sophisticated, right? But how many people in the chat have howled at the moon? Howled at the moon. Once or twice, right? Polly Joy is saying the Canadian Falls are breathtaking and the energy is amazing. I bet it is. I bet it is. And the sound, right? The sound has got to be breathtaking too, right? Just the sound, the roar of it. Yeah. All right. All right, so there is a powerful connection between wolf and raven too, as totem at the totem level, that they actually kind of travel together. And we know that raven is also about intuition and it's also about healing, but they also fly to the underworld and they bring back information for us, right? Raven does. And so wolf and raven, they kind of work together. They kind of work together. So when we're walking with wolf medicine and we are tapping in or learning more about our intuition, right, that we can actually use wolf medicine, using wolf medicine to be able to, they have really keen eyesight, they have very keen hearing, and their olfactory is what? Is that 100 times better than a human's sense of smell? Something like that. Maggie, do you know that information about the olfactory? Because you seem to know a lot about wolf. I know that it's a huge difference between a canine olfactory and a human. That they have that sense of smell. They can smell things from miles away, right? And they can hear things from miles away. So I very, very rarely yell at my dogs because they can hear, and I tell them that. If I'm whispering, I know you can hear me, right? And when I whisper, they know that I'm serious. George knows I'm serious when I whisper to him. Listen to me. That's what I tell him when I try to get his attention. Listen to me. All right. See, Stephanie's on it. She's got snowdrop information for us. Yep. All right. So she gives us the reference. And she says, basic powers, hope, friendship in adversity, passing of sorrow. Oh. All right. So with snowdrop in combination with wolf medicine, it has a lot to do with that friendship in adversity, right? Because we can call on the faithfulness, the inner strength, and the intuition, but wolf brings learning too. And sometimes we have to go past those barriers. We have to reach for it. And when we're in adversity, that's one thing adversity brings to us, right? Is that it makes us uncomfortable. We have to stretch sometimes to find the solution or the resolution. Julie is saying, I love the falls. My Scorpio moon is in the energy of the falls. Oh, that's interesting. What does that mean, though, Julie? My Scorpio moon is in the energy of the falls. What does that really mean? I love the sentence. It feels really good, but what does that really mean? And Stephanie says, Maggie, you have had a chance to work on the Raven fan. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. Maggie was going to be working on a fan. Okay. So the wolf medicine for us today, right? There's a sentence in here that didn't just jump out at me. It was kind of like glowing. All right. And it says that Foal will teach us through our experience to trust ourselves and not to fear or reject those parts of us that we do not yet understand or know. Right? Because part of his medicine was the shadow. There is a lot of tales, stories about the wolf being an adversary, right? A lot of stories like Red Riding Hood, where the wolf is trying to eat her up, right? And then there's also all the stories about the little boy who called a wolf, right? There's a lot of stories where the wolf is the nemesis, is the culprit, is the one that you can't trust. And it's complete opposite of what he actually stands for. But that one sentence really stood out for me. And when I looked at the card and I was looking at his face, and there is something about those eyes of a wolf. Here's another good question for you guys. Have you ever heard a wolf howl? Whether it's in captivity, like in a zoo or a rehab center, or out in the wild, right? Have you ever heard a wolf howl? And their babies are so cute when they howl. They really are. Um, yeah, that wolf howl for me, it goes right through my heart chakra. Um, there's just something about it, and some people actually get frightened by it. But there's many of us who just I could just listen to them for a long time, howling, communicating. And I always wondered. I wanted to ask Leslie Saranesi about that, if she's ever heard wolf howling, and if she's ever had a conversation about their communication skills. Yeah. Maybe we should have Leslie come in when the wolf guy is here in October. I can't remember his name. Paul's friend, the wolf guy. Yeah. All right. Julie's explaining to us about that, what she said. She says Scorpio is intense and deep water sign, like level 5 rapids. Okay. Good description. She says Cancer is a deep mountain lake water sign. Pisces is the ocean water sign. Okay. All right. And she says, I love talking about the signs as their landscapes correspondence, earth, air, fire, and water. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, the way the sentence that you used was just, I guess I want to say the word romantic, but not in the passionate sexual kind of way, but a romantic way of looking at, a loving way of looking at or hearing about the astrology. My Scorpio moon is in the energy of the falls. Yeah. And Stephanie is saying, unfortunately, wolf was personified as evil men in too many stories, and wolves in many European children's stories were used in the same way as owls in stories on Turtle Island. I have to agree with that. They certainly got a bad reputation coming through those stories that were handed down, right? Now, I did have an elder once tell me, and he made a drum with me. We made it together, actually. He was 82 when he made that drum, that hand drum. But he was telling me that when he was young, the stories that his grandparents would tell was, he says, looking back on it, they were very frightening stories. And he said, and as I grew and I was thinking about those stories and how I would relate them to my grandchildren, he said, I tried not to make them as scary, but I can understand why they did, because they were trying to keep us safe. They were trying to keep us safe and trying to get us not to play outside when it's dark. And that he says the times were much different then. He says where we lived was out in the middle of nowhere. And so trying to keep their children safe, because they were prey. They were prey from the wolves and the bears. Yeah, they were prey. And so they had to try to keep their children safe, And so looking at it that way, you can kind of understand in a way. It's a different perspective, a different way of looking at it or feeling about it. But I have to agree with you, Stephanie, that I think you nailed it. Julie Shumway Hill says she's a Scorpio. I didn't know that. I'm kind of glad about that, actually, Julie. I'm glad you're not a Gemini. Sorry, Polly Joe, but I'm surrounded by Geminis, and so at least now I have. And Stephanie, what is your sign? I forget. I know you told me, but I don't remember. Yeah, because I'm surrounded by Geminis, so to have a Scorpio around is really kind of nice. Julie says, "Oh, I love you too, Neshi. I do too." All right, now we just got a few minutes left. I wanted to share with you about my encounter with a wolf. I've had encounters with them while they're in captivity. There is a place, it's a rehabilitation place in, I don't even know if I want to call it that. It's in Poynette. And it's run by the Department of Natural Resources. And the animals that they have there have been injured and unable to survive out in the wild, okay? Or they've been confiscated from people who've held them in captivity illegally. And they're not able to survive out in the wild. And so they have packs of wolves there. And so that was, I think, my very first time that I actually sat with on a bench outside of their enclosed area and spent time with them. You know, and some people feel sorry for them, and you know, why do they have to keep them here? And I understand why they have to be there, and they can teach us so much. And if we can just quiet our mind, right, and to be able to be with them. George just moved the table. He stretched again and he moved the table. He's getting big. He's got to be at least 63 pounds now. So anyway, that was my first encounter with a wolf. Sitting there with them and watching them, and you know, being in my heart so that I could bring them closer energetically to me, right? That was the first time. And if you ever have a chance to do that, it's a safe place to do it. And usually it's pretty quiet there in places like that. The other one is my other encounter. I was driving. We had just moved here to Toma. It had been like in 2007 maybe. And I was driving to where my parents were living at the time. And that was about an hour away northeast of here. And in order to get there, I have to drive through a federal wildlife preserve, Nisita Woods. And it's a pretty long stretch of highway, pretty straight too, highway. And I'm driving along, and it's got to be like, I don't know, 7 o'clock in the morning or so. I had to go over and pick my mom up for a doctor's appointment. And I'm driving along. There's nobody else on the highway with me, no other drivers. And I'm heading east, and there's this wolf, dark in color. I want to say black, but it was maybe really sable color, right? And he steps out onto the shoulder of the road, and I saw him a ways up, right? And so I slowed down, and I'm thinking he's going to cross in front of me. So I slow way down, and he stands there, and then he starts moving, coming down at the shoulder of the road, heading in the opposite direction than me. And so I'm watching him coming. He's watching me. I'm in my car, right? And as we come closer and closer to each other, I look into his eyes. And let me tell you, those eyes are captivating. Captivating. You can't look away from them. I'm doing maybe 5 miles an hour, maybe. I wasn't standing still, but it was really slow. And literally we locked eyes and we watched each other. Literally, we're watching each other and turning until I couldn't see him except in my periphery. And then so I and of course I'm driving. I got to at least face forward, right? Why I didn't stop, I don't know. But in my rearview mirror, I'm watching him, and then he doesn't cross the road. He goes back into the same woods he just came out of. Now, that was the first time I'd ever seen a wolf in the wild. And so I'm driving along, and Maggie, you'll like this one. I'm thinking to myself, that had to have been a coyote. That had to be a coyote. I know that was a coyote. Dang, that was a wolf. And I'm talking to my spiritual team. I said, what was that all about? And it's like, it kind of blew my mind. And yeah. Yeah, and basically the message was for me to, because he was dark in color, yeah, and it was about that shadow side, that shadow side. But those eyes, I'll never forget those eyes and the way we locked onto each other, you know. It's- yeah. And there was nobody else on the road. No one. Hmm. All right. You're laughing about all those Geminis, right? And Polly goes, geez. That's all right, Polly Joe. Gemini are an air sign, right? So the air sign's definitely feeding this fire sign. Stephanie's a Sagittarius. Yay! And Eve is saying, "Hi, Eve." She's saying, "I'm Scorpio." So we have Scorpios in the house along with us Sagittarians. All right. Rochelle says, "Yes, context in all of these stories. I also read once that children have the smell and characteristics movement of small animals until around the age of 5. Therefore, they would potentially be prey to a predator." Yes, yes. You know, and I'm sure, out in the country, when you're living literally out in the country and you're miles from the next town or anything like that, yeah, and I'm sure that they get stalked, right? Without even knowing it. Educational emissaries. There we go. I like that one. Julie says, I like to sing to the raptors and educational emissaries at the local nature center. The bald eagle usually sings back, and the turkey vulture paces his enclosure. Ah, I don't know if you can do this. You should do a live stream out there, Julie. I'd watch it. Yeah, of course, yeah. I watch whatever you guys do. So, yeah, see if you can do that sometimes, if you don't mind. If you don't mind. Rochelle says, she's a Taurus. Yeah, an earth sign. Well, our visit from George's ancestor, Wolf. And I truly believe that he came here today with a message about teaching us through our experience to trust ourselves, not to fear or reject those parts of us that we do not yet understand or know. He's walking right toward us, coming to help us. Yeah. To teach us about this experience that we're having, right? When we're maybe, facing those aspects of ourselves that are in the shadow. Yesterday we talked a lot about repressed anger. Yeah, and finding a way to be able to express it, right? I think it was yesterday. Could have been the day before. George is moving around. So, whatever we shared today about Wolf and what Wolf brings to us today, if it resonated with you, my suggestion is to embrace it. Embrace it and watch, sense, see, feel, hear how the energy is unfolding around you today and through you, right? And just notice is if you are a direct participant in that unfoldment, or are you a witness to it? Because either way, we're learning something. Yeah, and if you're a witness, then you're supporting the person who's going through it, bearing witness. If it didn't resonate with you, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it all. You won't hurt anyone's feelings by saying, nope, that wasn't me. Didn't get that one at all. That's okay. There's always tomorrow and tomorrow's cards, right? Yeah. And I need to share a little bit of something with you guys. I'm rather excited about my Tuesday night interview. Actually, it's not even Tuesday night. It's a special time. That's why I have to tell you guys. Communications from Home show on Tuesday is going to be at 10 a.m. in the morning, Central Time. That's 11 Eastern Time. Okay? Yeah. Why? I'm interviewing Aisha Shiba. She's from India, and trying to figure out the time zone thing. And so they're like 12 hours ahead of us or something like that. Not quite. 11 hours ahead of us. And so, yeah, in order to have her on the show and at a decent time for her, yeah, I had to move the time of my show up. So on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 Eastern, is Communications from Home. My guest is Alicia Shiba, and she is a spiritual teacher. The title of the show is The Future of Spirituality. She was to be Paul Krause's guest this past Tuesday. They had technical difficulties, couldn't get her on for the interview. And so, and Paul is really, really busy and knew that he wasn't going to be able to reschedule it to bring her on, and asked me if I could do him a favor. And I said, of course. Of course I can. And so Alicia and I got together and figured out a day and a time and all that stuff. So please join us. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. Her background is in science. Her educational background is in science, but she has been a clairvoyant since a very, very young age, and knowing how to how to go from dimension to dimension from a very young age. And so she would like to share with us her thoughts, her beliefs around the future of spirituality, especially meditation. I think you guys are going to be quite surprised. So if you could join us at 10 a.m., that would be great. And then let's see, after that, like seconds, I'm going to try to get done a couple minutes early. Seconds after that is Polly Jola Bay Show, Chakra Sessions. And that comes on at noon Eastern Time. Okay. And, Polly Joe, I don't think I know what your show's about. If you're still in the chat, let us know. Then we have this live stream, right, at 3 p.m. Eastern. And then guess what? I get to have an evening kind of free. That'll be kind of nice on a Tuesday. I haven't had one of those in years. And then on Wednesday at noon is Soul Connections with Polly Joe. Oh my God, last night's show. A lot of you guys were in the chat in her show last night. Wasn't that fabulous? Holy smokes. She pulled 54 cards last night. 54. Yeah. There was a lot of battle energy last night. There was a theme last night. And so her Soul Connections is at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday night. On Thursday we have the elders are coming out on Star Nations. Connie's show, Connie Votter, her show is on at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. And then we have this live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we have Angel Therapy with Maureen Mann at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Yeah. Everybody it's really, her show has gotten quite a good response from you guys, and we really appreciate that. She'll be drawing cards too, the second half of her show. All right. So, and then at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday night is the Mystery School with Ortune and Carl Franklin. Yeah. So we have a whole lineup again this coming week for you guys. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. Polly Joe said sacred connection through sound. Woohoo. I like that. Of course, to me, my heart and my mind goes to drums. So I'm looking forward to that one. Okay, so we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you all for being with me today. And if you're watching through the recorded version of this, Thank you too for watching the recording. And I would like to ask you to also like and share the recorded show. And with that, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Yay, it's almost the weekend, right? Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the live stream and the group card draw. All right. Baba Mina, that means in Potawatomi, until we see each other again. Love you guys.